Hello and welcome to the Refs Need Love 2 podcast, a show where we get real, raw, and behind the scenes on one of the hardest jobs in the pitch, the referee. I have a special guest this week, Peter Manikowski, who is the president of the Professional Soccer Referees Association. We know they've been a little bit in the news recently as their membership has voted to authorize a potential strike next week. And as the president of the PRSA, he represents an organization that represents our pro refs in the MLS, USL, NWSL, and the Canadian Soccer Association. I mean, this is an impressive man. He has reffed as an assistant referee over 225 matches in the MLS. He's been on the FIFA panel, but if I just said that, that would be impressive. He is also a lawyer and an economist with a master in mathematics. Talk about impressive. Peter, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Outstanding. Well, Peter, I have to tell you, when I look at referees, I know, casual fans will look at referees and they think about a villain. When I look at a referee, I think about sacrifice. I think about how much time and dedication to their craft, physical, mental, sacrifice to their family that they've gone through to become a professional referee. Can you talk to us a little about what the journey is like for most professional referees?
Sure, I'd love to. And this is a real true story about refereeing is what you want it to be. And the amount of dedication that you put into it, you can go as far as you want to go. But as you rightly pointed out, it takes dedication, sacrifice, and all these all the things that you can put into it, energy and time at the track. And what we typically see is officials beginning their career in either youth ball or maybe local games in their town or in their city, wherever they are. And, you start to move up the ladder by doing additional matches in adult matches, amateur matches, maybe something, with more regional youth leagues and those kind of things. Some officials take a track into college ball. I personally worked in the Big Ten, starting when I was about 20 years old. And the Big Ten was a great environment for me. And I truly loved my time in the Big Ten. And then from there, it becomes more and more selective at each step. When I was coming up, there really was no second division, and there was no top division for women's ball. But now there is, and at each step, moving through regional refereeing into professional matches, there are so many matches now, but it truly is selective for the referees. You have to be the best in your state, best in your region, and best professionally at each step. And you can imagine that with every time you go up, the matches are farther from your house. The training camps are farther from your house. And the time on the road that you have to spend, the time on the track, the time in the weight room, it's big. It's big, and it becomes a lifestyle. And for a lot of people in the pros, you have you might not be able to make enough money in refereeing right off the bat. So you have your day job, and you've got to find the right compatibility of those things. And then most importantly is your family. And how you mix those two things, your day job and your refereeing with your family, is the most difficult and most important decisions that you can make in your refereeing. And then once you move to the pros, it is a lifestyle. It truly is.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly on that, you talk about that journey. I've had people ask me, well, how do you become a professional referee? Well, this is not just a 1 or 2 or 3 year type thing, is it?
No, it took me 10. It took me 10 years to get to MLS. Yep.
Wow. And I'm assuming, for many, referees, I mean, it could be, 10 years, it could be 12, it could be more, to make it to that stage. And then let's talk a little bit about, so a professional referee, they finally get to the pros after putting in, those 10 years or more, they're in their late 20s or maybe 30s by the time that they get there. Can you talk a little bit about what the schedule is like for a professional referee in the MLS? How long is the season? And then like week to week, what are they doing to be able to stay as a professional referee?
So let me start off with, the season is very long in the United States. Compared to other countries, the season is very long. The professional officials, for example, just this past weekend, uh, took their preseason camp. And preseason camp for pro officials occurs in January. Preseason camp for the national referees in the US occurs sometime in December. But you've got to stay fit all this time. And then we have preseason matches usually in February. Then we have the regular season now starting earlier than ever, February 21st this year. And that regular season then goes all the way through October, sometimes into November, playoffs and so forth. So it's a packed season. The top officials that we have now are working 45 matches over the course of the season, professional matches with players in their teens, 20s, 30s, moving as fast as they possibly can. And the mental concentration that you need to do this is off the charts. Then you couple that with the speed of the play. It's a big deal to do 45 matches a season. Even 40 is an enormous lift. And in order to do that lift, you have to be working out probably 5 days a week if you only have one match that week. 1 day of recovery, speed workouts, other weight workouts, but you really have to do a lot of working out. Then you have to be studying the rules 3-4 times a week, taking your rules and knowing the laws up and down. MLS, for example, has rules of competition. Rules of competition here are unique, and you got to know them. So you got to study those. And then finally, you got to watch tape. You got to watch tape to prepare for your next match. You got to know what the players are going to do before they do it. You got to know what the teams are going to do. Do they have a set play off a goal kick? You've got to know. And it's unbelievably exciting. I have a lot of enthusiasm in my voice because when I was on the field, I loved it. But it's hard. It is hard. So the people that do it, I still have tremendous respect for them.
Yeah. And you talked about those top referees. I mean, just because there might be an international break in MLS doesn't mean that they're off. Just like the top players, the top referees are going off to other tournaments as well.
They are. They are. And where they're working matches, for example, in the Open Cup is one of the places people work over here. Or they might be working, for example, replay center duty on leagues that are happening, for example, the NWSL. And this occurs across all the leagues. The NWSL is the same thing. Those referees, they do the same studying of tape. They do the same rules. They do the same exercises. And same thing for USL. It's just different there because there's no replay component. So no matter where you are in the top divisions, it is a real time commitment, but it's also, I remember one referee once told me, this is playing chess at 30 miles an hour. And it is.
It's amazing to me. People don't understand. Referees generally run more than every other person on the pitch on average during a match. People don't understand the physical component to being a top referee.
Yeah, that's really true. And the assistant referees even, I used to do the when GPS watches came out. I thought it was the coolest thing that you could see on your computer where you were running. Then I actually saw it, and in a typical match, you're taking 4 miles of sprinting, and I mean sprinting in the professional matches. In games where the players are really moving, and there are some like that, you have maybe 5 miles of sprinting in a match. And then international matches where the skill level is even higher, you can have more than that. And referees running 6 or 7 miles a game is normal now. Very normal.
Can we come back to a little bit about the time commitment that you spoke about earlier? When you are a professional referee, whether you're a center referee or you're an assistant referee or the fourth official, can you talk about the travel that's on them? And obviously here in the United States, we have a massive country. It takes a long time to get from one point to another. You need to make sure you're there for the match and fresh for the match. You talk about that time commitment and like when are refs notified? Where are they going? How long do they need to be away? Because I'm really, we're talking about, the lifestyle of referee. It's not easy.
It's really not. And when you work in the physical training and the recovery that you need into the flying around is tremendously difficult. So on a typical match, let's say it's Saturday, you would fly Friday, usually in the afternoon, arrive at your hotel and just go to bed. And then Saturday, the idea is to rest as much as possible on the Saturday and spend the time with your refereeing crew so you get to know each other's personalities, the expectations of one another, and to really gel. And you do that over hotel breakfast and lunch. You do the match on Saturday night, and then depending on what time you want to get home on Sunday, some folks take the 6 a.m. on Sunday because they want to get back to their families as fast as possible. Other folks might like to sleep in, and Sunday is really a day where you can kind of pick what you want to do. But if you can imagine that under this schedule, the referees they get a weekend of 10 hours to themselves. And then if you have a regular job, that means you really get 10 hours of free time a week to truly do your things with your family or whatever have you. So that's part of it. Our referees who travel around North America for CONCACAF matches or for FIFA have an even bigger travel mileage situation. And I'll just close that question by saying the number of days that people are staying on the road now is approaching 200, maybe even 240 days on the road for professional referees right now, which is more than it's ever been. And to do these matches, that's what it's becoming, is you're living on the road 240, 250 days a year.
I think this is such an important point. I mean, I think most people know that if you have made it to the Ted Uncle level, right, the Chris Penso, and you've been a center referee in the MLS for a number of years, I mean, you can do it as a full-time job. Financially, it makes sense. But for everyone else down that ladder, and I know a number of national referees here in Georgia who I have gotten to meet, and some assistant referees and the video assistant review referees, they can't make enough money to support a family. If you're not MLS center, everyone else has got to do pretty much a full-time job or some other way to make ends meet. So, what you're saying about every single weekend of the year, you're gone and traveling, and the workouts to stay in shape, to run those kind of mileages and not get injured and stay up in the 94th minute on that sprint as you would in the first minute. I mean, it's almost impossible to try and have a life outside of chasing this dream to be a professional ref.
Yeah, that a lot of that is true. But I think I want to go back to your opening comment of this show here, which was these people are tremendously motivated people. I mean, you find this also in all the other sports of the officials who are in the top. I have friends who are NBA referees, Major League Baseball umpires, NHL referees, and whatever have you. And the common theme across all of them is, of course, they love their sport. Let's start there, right? They love it. But outside of that, the motivation that folks have is the most motivated group of people I've seen really in any profession I've been in, right? Just like our players. The players are tremendously motivated people. The referees are unbelievably motivated people. Their ability to concentrate, to multitask, to think about things and anticipate what will happen next is, like I said, you struggle to find that in many other professions. When you couple the physical, mental, and adrenaline aspects of what we do.
Yeah. So you talk about, I mean, I call it love. I mean, obviously, to be a referee, you have to love the game, considering some of the adverse feedback we get and conflicts we have to deal with, and vitriol that's thrown at us at a weekly basis. But let's talk a little about where we are right now, the PSRA. So you have, again, voted to authorize a strike. And I have to tell you, I mean, I am probably one of the most involved, passionate, soccer people and referees that you can find on this earth. But even I don't really understand what's going on right now and why you guys are striking. Can you shine a little light on what's happening right now and what you guys are trying to do for your membership?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. So let me start off by saying that here we are on the 26th of January, and it is my sincere hope that there is no labor dispute that's going to happen anytime soon. It's my sincere hope that the union and PRO can come to an agreement that the officials see as suitable and the company sees as suitable. So I just want to start there. That is my sincere hope. And is the sincere hope of the PSRA board. As you might expect, based on what we just talked about, is the requirements of officiating, the dedication to the officiating is reached new levels. And our view is that we need to be keeping up commensurately with that dedication, as well as the services that we provide to Major League Soccer and the other leagues have really gone up. The complexity is there, the number of matches is there. All these other points point to higher wages for the work that we do, more flexibility in scheduling to some degree, and then travel benefits, flexibility, and the way we move around the United States and Canada are critical elements. So we're bargaining for those things. We truly are. And the strike authorization that we have relates to the company not dealing fairly with us in our quest for a collective bargaining agreement. And we filed an unfair labor practice with related to the conduct that we allege that some of pros management has engaged in. And that's a hyper technical point perhaps. But that's the source of the strike authorization is we know what fair is. We want to be dealt with fairly. We want to be dealt with appropriately to make an agreement that's fair for everyone on the back end.
Yeah, it's so well said. I will say, you talked about how the referees now are all over the place at all of these different levels. You've increased the professionalization. Can we just briefly talk about the scrutiny of referees these days? I mean, obviously we've brought in VAR now, for a number of years, but it's like every single match has like 20 different camera angles and the coverage is crazy. The scrutiny of every decision seems to be so much higher now. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, referees aren't held accountable, but that couldn't be further from the truth.
It's quite the opposite, in fact. And I want to, this may sound cliche, but the scrutiny that the officials put on themselves is even higher than what the fans, coaches, players, stakeholders, whatever have you, right? I remember when I was doing this, that when I was watching tape, it would take me 2 or 3 hours to watch the game because I was stopping it, rewinding, stopping, rewinding, and really kind of sometimes beating myself up on the plane on the way home about what I had done the night before. And maybe that was a little unhealthy, but at the same time, it's part of the life. But I want to get back to your earlier point, which is even the collective bargaining agreement that we have right now, the evaluation system that we use goes on for about 15 to 20 pages, detailing how the officials are evaluated, what they're evaluated on, the scales for each element. And it's a point of job security for the officials, right? To make sure that they're evaluated fairly. But it's also the point is that there are so many facets to refereeing. We do our best at every single one, and it's only fair that we be evaluated on those facets. So it comes in lots of parts, but it is robust, to say it mildly.
Yeah, no, I don't think people have any idea the amount of scrutiny every single call is made. I know I have some friends who have talked to me about their professional referee experience. The evaluations, the assessments are 4-6 pages long of every single decision, and there are real consequences when key match decisions are missed. And it's not like you can go get another job reffing some other soccer league professionally. I mean, it's high stakes every week.
It really is. And not only that, it's not just, another league, another place. It's, I want to be able to do the biggest matches when they come up, right? I remember when I was in, and I know this makes me sound old, but when Red Bull played LA, I wanted to do that. Every time they played one another, I wanted to do that game, right? Seattle, Portland, some of these other matchups I wanted to be in every single one of those matchups because those were the fastest games, the hardest games, and most competitive. And I remember one season, my crew worked New York versus LA both times that season. And that was one of the proudest moments that I really had in refereeing, it's very rare that they use the same crew on both of those games, but those were the things that we really strive for and really worked hard on. And then, of course, the playoff matches. So that's why we scrutinize ourselves so hard, because that's how we get better and work the big matches that we want as the season goes on.
So I want to talk about kind of as we go forward. So you're actively in negotiations, on this contract right now. There's already starting to be talk about, well, what if the PSRA does actually go on strike? Do you want to deliver a message? I mean, there are 100,000+ referees here in the United States who are not in PSRA. If you guys do go on strike, do you have a message that you want to send to the other referees out there of, how they can support, but also, not crossing a picket line potentially?
Well, yeah, labor disputes are really hard, right? And they come about in different forms, right? The union striking is one of them. The other one, which happened in 2014, was the company locked us out on the Thursday prior to the first league match. And I remember being locked out and my heart sinking because of what was happening at the time. But also kind of that feeling that other officials would be doing my work. And it was hard to process. Nothing like that had ever happened in the United States before. And once again, it's my sincere hope that doesn't happen again. And look, the officials who stood with us in 2014, we appreciated what they did, right? They became not available for those matches that Pro at the time had asked them to do. They had other work going. They chose to simply say, I'm standing in solidarity with the union officials. And we really appreciated that, right? And the appreciation comes in a couple of parts, not just the contract that we have right now or the contract that we may be bargaining for, but we really view this as the respect that the company has for the officials, the respect MLS has for the officials, and these things it truly has risen in a positive way over the years. And we want to raise it further. And with that respect comes higher wages, better way to move around the country, scheduling and whatever have you. But these things all come down to the officials who are working in the lower levels. And that's a key point over here, which is our philosophy is that the rising tide will lift all the referees in all the places. It will call greater attention to the job of refereeing, which is one of our goals as well. And really to increase the professionalism from international ball to the NWSL, Major League Soccer, and all the other leagues that we have deserve professional referees. And we want to give it to them. And we know what to do to make it happen. So that's why we're asking the officials to really stand with us, because we see the impact across the country, United States and Canada, as being enormous. And we can all get there if we work together. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I mean, I know, again, as a grassroots official for about 10 years now, the training and the professionalism gap between grassroots and pro is dramatic. And even if you might be, have been around for a long time as a regional referee, I mean, it is a massive jump to go pro. Can you talk a little bit about what happened last time there was a lockout? I think MLS did try to go forward with some other referees. Did the quality get affected?
Oh, they did. They did go forward with other officials. Um, in my view, it did. Right. Of course, and I've got to say, the referees who went out there in the early part of March of 2014, they did their best too. They really did. And they applied for the professionalism that they had, that they could supply. And just like every referee does, no matter when they go out there. But there's an issue of familiarity with the league, familiarity with the players, with the coaches, with the unique rules that exist in MLS sometimes. And that familiarity just isn't there if you bring in replacement officials. It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, there's already, lots of talk about consistency and credibility of officials. And again, when I look at Ismail and I look at, again, Tori Penso or Chris Penso or Ted Uncle or any of these wonderful referees. I mean, they come across as so professional and have so much credibility on the pitch. And that comes from training and feedback and familiarity with the players in the league. And if you lose that, it really calls all of the games into question and the professionalism of the MLS, the credibility of the MLS. So I hope they do find a way to come to the table and come to agreement with you guys so we can avoid this situation.
Yeah, and look, they've come to the table. They really have. And we appreciate the work that the pro committee is doing. So I want to be very clear that these are, I actually worked with many of them on the field of play. A couple of the folks, I worked with them in major MLS Cup 2014. So we all are talking about the same thing, right? We really are. It's to the extent of wages, it's the extent of benefits, travel considerations, and scheduling, that the question is how much and when, right? And so I want to be very clear about that, which is the pro committee is made up of good people, and some of them have been my friends for 20 years. The real part about replacement officials that is that matches are spectacles, right? The entertainment value of these matches is held together by in a large part to the talent of the referee, right? The talent and the dedication of the referee makes the matches flow in a way that you don't even believe you're seeing, right? And when that talent breaks down or errors occur or whatever have you, the spectacle breaks apart. The entertainment value to the fans, to the players, the coaches, that's what breaks down. And so there's not so much the accuracy of the decisions, but the management of the match, the way people talk to one another, the way people interact with one another. And by the way, how long the ball is in play has a lot to do with this, right? Nobody wants to see disputes over throw-ins or goal kicks or whatever. We want to see the ball in play, and we want to see the players moving as fast as they can. And that's the real talent that the officials provide, is those soft skills to keep the ball moving, keep the ball in play, and let the players show what they have. And that's what it's all about. That's why I love soccer. It's fast, and the players make all the difference and we want to provide that foundation for them to do that on the field of play.
Outstanding. Well, Peter, I just want to thank you so much for your time. The last question I have for you is, how can we, the soccer community, and specifically the soccer referee community, which again, there's 100,000 grassroots referees across just the United States. And I know there are referees in all other countries who are looking at this situation, who are dealing with similar types of challenges and issues. How can we support you during this time?
Well, first of all, is by reaching out to the officials who you may know and discussing these issues, right? What are you paid in your local league? Where would you like it to go? What dedication does the local league require of you? Where do you want that to go? We're talking about the same things over here, and it's the discussion that's really important. So we ask you to really share your solidarity with us as we begin this, or continue on this road towards building a better life for referees and making their work fulfilling, and also their work conditions suitable so that they can do the best job as they possibly can. So, these disputes have happened in other places, and they've happened in South America, they've happened in Central America. They happen in Europe from time to time. They happen all over the world, right? And in each place is an opportunity to raise the level of refereeing so that the job is better for the referee. And that's what we're really trying to do. This is our year. Other places will have other years, but we all support one another just as we do on the field of play. You're a crew of 3. Now or 4 or 5 or 6. We're asking us to be a crew of, thousands of referees standing together.
Outstanding. Peter, thank you so much. I'm just going to close this out, Aaron. I just want to say thank you for what you're doing. Again, not just for the PSRA, but for referees everywhere, all around the world. This has been an episode of the Refs Need Love 2 podcast. Again, you can find me at refsneedlove2.com, at TikTok, on Insta, certainly on the website and this podcast as well. Please let us know your comments and your feedback, and definitely please support the PSRA as they fight for all of us. Again, I sincerely appreciate your time, and I hope your next match is red card free.